what you know, what the people that have done deep research know. You're just tapping into that. So you've got all the accumulated knowledge of the ages at your fingertips now with the internet. All of it's right there. Understand how powerful what I'm talking about is. Understand what sound currency means. What it means is, I'm not saying, well, I believe in a little money is okay. No, this is simply a means to an end. It's saying, okay, let's play your game of wampum. Let's play this little tiddlywink game where, we say, oh, it's important to have money to facilitate exchange. That's what it's all about. So, you don't have to buy a whole cow. You just buy a quarter of the cow so you can fit it in your freezer. This whole idea. I get it. We get it, okay? But understand that if there's plenty of stuff, and really that's what we're after, it's not the money, it's the stuff that we buy with the money, okay? That's what we're really after. What we want is, first and foremost, we want security. We want prosperity. We want to be free from being beholden from any man. Okay, so what we want is, we want to know that we are very secure in having plenty of clean drinking water. Yes, we do want clean drinking water. Yes, we want plenty of healthy food. Yes, who doesn't? Yes, we want plenty of adequate housing. Yes, that makes a lot of sense, and God would agree. And then beyond that, we're very inventive and creative. That's why we have so much technology today. From automobiles to washing machines to cell phones and television sets and on and on. And these things, I believe, are okay with God. That it's a very natural thing that we invented these toys and these tools. Okay, that's a natural offshoot of just being human, being made in the image and likeness of God. We're inventive, we're creative. So those things are all okay. And if we look around us and we say, well, wait a minute, there's plenty of that stuff. There's not only plenty of essential human needs, like I pointed out, how we could provide plenty of clean drinking water. We could literally turn the ocean into pure drinking water if we wanted to. The entire ocean, all the water on earth could be clean and drinkable. Okay, and then would there be a water shortage ever, anywhere? No. And provide ways to pump it inland if we needed to in times of drought? No. All that technology God has given us. God gave us the wherewithal by giving us a brain, giving us the capacity to think, to imagine stuff, because that's where all the technology started. It started with a thought, with imagination, and then somebody spoke it. Then they wrote it down, they took action. They conceptualized it, and they handed that over to somebody else, and then they took it from there, and because they had a different talent. They had a talent for hands-on, nuts and bolt, putting this stuff together. And so, all the technology today is an accumulation, a collective, byproduct of humanity. So it belonged to everybody. You understand? Eventually, if we had sound currency, the kind of world we would have is where it was understood from birth that you were born free, born secure. You were not beholden to any man. That you were qualified. You were endowed with all the wealth of this planet that was as equal to yours as anybody else's. And that was a decree made by the Spirit of God, because you're God's child, and God doesn't play favorites, that we're all equally beloved. God wants the best, not for some, but for everybody. And if we share that same mind of God, we can understand that's the world that we can have. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when we serve one another, it's because we darn well want to. And we'll be very productive. You see, we don't need the money incentive. We don't need it. We've been taught this. We've been inculcated, brainwashed, indoctrinated to believe in this money-based reality. And to say, this is it, man. This is social Darwinism, when me, money, that's what I want, is the money. I want to have that security, and I can't worry about you because you're not smart enough or strong enough or sly enough or shrewd enough or whatever, competent enough, whatever those qualities might be that have enabled me to be, safe and secure and be free, financially speaking. But I'm here to suggest that you better start caring what other people want and what other people need, because you won't be happy. And what's going to happen is you're not going to feel worthy to go to a better place if you haven't been living your life by the golden rule, which starts in your heart and your mind, your spirit and your soul. And then it, comes out your mouth in the things you say or don't say, fail to say. You know, the things you do or fail to do. Okay, those are your fruits. And it all starts with your thinking, having screwed up thinking. And yes, God understands, I understand why you have screwed up thinking. Because you live in a world that condones screwed up thinking, that condones survival of the strongest, you know, survival of the shrewdest, survival of those willing to step outside the bounds of common decency, survival of those willing to live outside the bounds of the golden rule, you know, the precepts of the golden rule, to treat others as you would like to be treated. So what sound currency is, it's a means to an end, okay? And, you know, I joke with people. I go to the bank and, you know, when I get cash back on my deposits, I'll say, you know, I'd like a 50s, you know, and I joke with them. I say, you know, 50 is the new 20 because I'm referring to inflation. Yeah, that's what unsound currency does. Okay, the debasement of the currency is caused by inflation, cost of living inflation. And all the debasement of the currency, it means it's worth less. It's not as good as it once was. It doesn't have the buying power, the purchasing power that it used to. What you want is cost of living deflation. Okay? That shows that we're making progress. We're being productive as a whole, humanity as a whole, because nobody can take, you know, credit for all that, you know, exists in the world. And just because you got all the money and you can buy anything you want and you can have all the services you want at any time you want, but in all honesty, you wouldn't have any of those things if it wasn't because of a collective. The people working in the factory, each one of them was a micro collective, and each one did a different aspect of the assembly to bring that finished product to you. So yes, it is a collective society. Whether you like it or not, you've got to admit that we're in this thing together. And therefore, you know, you are just as worthy and deserving as I am. You know, it's up to God to judge, well, he's being lazy. He doesn't deserve to have anything. You know, leave it to God. Well, you know what? He just, you know, he's hedonistic and he's selfish and, you know, he doesn't want to work. So, you know, let's withhold from him. Leave it to God. Let the conscience be the guide. Trust God. Just treat people equally. You know, that's what I want. I want everybody to be wealthy from birth. I want a level playing field. I don't want an advantage-disadvantage paradigm. I don't want people to have an upper hand, because inherently, if you've got an upper hand, that means he's got a lower hand. If you've got an advantage, he's at a disadvantage. I want out of that paradigm, and I know how to get out of that paradigm, and it's through understanding sound currency. Look up the term, research it, understand why this is the one thing the elitist pigs running our lives will not let us have. And how do they run our lives? Okay, through policy creation and lack of policy. We have no consumer protection out there, okay? All it is protecting the uber wealthy. That's it. The hyper wealthy people out there, okay? You know, every single problem can be solved. Every single problem. Like I first pointed out in this video about, you know, the hazards of just living in our society that is filled with financial tyranny and oppression, because this is how you oppress people, by you intentionally impoverish them, you keep them down, you repress and suppress the population. Okay, it's by design. Because who would argue with me that the guy picking our food, the guy driving the truck, the guy at the supermarket handing you your food, are every bit as important, more important than these elitist scums? There's some of these very highly educated positions in our world. Everybody's important. And those people doing those jobs that require very little education, does that mean that they deserve to be subjugated? I mean, is there jobs for all the highly educated people? Let's suppose we all had PhDs in our chosen field of interest. Does that negate in any way the fact that we need common workers doing common, mundane jobs? No, it doesn't. Who would dare to argue with that truth, that fact? So you got to understand just how fundamentally we've all been mind-deaf to trust in this system, when trusting in this system is like trusting in Satan, because that is the spirit thereof. That's what these people spew out. Lies, half-truths, deceit, propaganda. They muddy the waters. They want you confused and off balance. They want to convolute the issues like economics, so you don't understand, so that you don't understand simple principles like supply and demand. Because here we go. The progress in industrialization, again, as a collective society is like a family. A family is a collective, is it not? A microscopic collective. You work together to look after each other's welfare. So society as a family does stuff together, and without all the components, okay, of that family, there's going to be lack. If somebody isn't willing to put the bolts into your car is never going to get built. So we need that one guy doing that one job. It's indispensable, or else none of us would have automobiles. Do you get it? So, you know, we've got to just really care and understand just that the production has increased. It's a matter of fact that according to laws of supply and demand, we've got this great excess, this great oversupply. And instead of seeing the laws of supply and demand take over, whereby you'd see your cost of living continuously drop. So today, a 20 should be the new 50, okay? You get it? Your money increases with value. To what end, you see? Great question. To what end? Well, to the end where you've got universal freedom. Freedom from being beholden to another man. You've got universal security. Freedom from being, made to feel insecure in a world that is just conjured up out of the minds of really wicked people. And that's the best way I could put it. I mean, these are just evil people. These are people that are contriving and conniving. They're diabolical. Diabolical is a great way to describe. They're sinister. They're clandestine. They're occultists. So they dabble in the black arts. They dabble in the idea. They think they're so smart. But yes, they're evil genius. But how smart, let me ask you, is somebody that's buying their own ticket to hell, that's throwing their own conscience away, casting it to the four winds? They're sowing to the wind, and they're going to reap the whirlwind, as it is written, because this is what they're deserving of. They've got to go to a more painful place. And this is where the whole end of the age comes in, where Jesus returns with this multitude of holy angels called the harvesters of the souls of men. And he separates the wicked from the righteous. And the wicked have to go to hell. They have to go to what's described as this lake of burning fire, where it's just a miserable hellhole of all these people. Imagine them all stuck together with no chicanery possible, because there's no decent, upright, righteous people to oppress, to make their lives miserable, because they're miserable. That's what it all comes down to. That they have just, thrown their welfare away, thrown their conscience away, thrown their integrity away, thrown their nobility of character away. Said that has no value in the real world application. These are the policymakers that have done this to us. So it's coming out of our colleges and universities, out of our K through 12 educational system. And it's being spewed out by the mainstream media. Because a lot of these people genuinely believe it. They have bought the lie. They've taken the blue pill. They say it's just too hard to buck the system, to swim upstream, to go against the grain. So I'm going to go with the flow, because this brings me a sense of peace. You see, and it does. It does. Ignorance is bliss in that sense. But it's really sad, because you know what? You're going to hell with those same hypocrites. You're going to be down there with the gnashing and gnashing of teeth, all that misery that you're going to be, because you didn't care enough to say, no, there is right and wrong. And the way these policymakers have taken us is wrong. And this is the way I'm going to go. I don't care if it is against the system. I don't care if I'm the last guy on earth, the only guy on earth that believes this way. I'm going to get away from it. Do you understand how all these things, the philosophy and the theology and the economics, are all tied in? It comes from Jesus' teaching. That's where I learned it, that the love of money is a root of